From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. I'm Tyne Morgan, and here's what's in store over the next 60 minutes. Soybeans surge early in the week as the market turned bullish on China's promise to buy beans.
Obviously, the China story is the easy one to talk about, but there's been a handful of other factors at play that have helped.
We have details on a trade pact the White House is touting as a major win. Fertilizer prices up 37%, profits squeezed, and farms on edge.
Yes, a lot of the prices are being driven by global factors, but the lack of competition does not help.
Who's really cashing in? We dig into what's driving the price spike and why Washington is now taking notice. As harvest wraps up in some areas, we take you to what just may be the garden spot this year.
So this is a record corn crop for
Yes,
you.
it is. This is a record corn crop for us in 2025.
Now for the news, we're learning more details about the new trade deal the U.S. reached with China. While the deal hasn't been officially inked yet, the White House has released a breakout of what the plan entails. China clarifying that it will purchase an additional 12 million metric tons of soybeans through January, so an 18 million metric ton total for 2025. That's followed by 25 million more a year through 2028, which is close to past years. So is this really a win? Now, China will also buy U.S. sorghum. In fact, U.S. Grains Council says the first shipment is heading to China this week of U.S. sorghum. And Bloomberg confirmed for the first time in more than a year, a major Chinese grain importer was inquiring about U.S. wheat for loading December to February. Meanwhile, the highest court in the land on Wednesday heard arguments about the Trump administration's tariffs and whether they overstepped federal law. It's now up to Supreme Court justices to decide something that could impact almost all of our trading partners. It comes as both the U.S. and China move to cut tariffs against each other. In response to President Trump lowering the fentanyl tariff from 20% to 10%, China dropped its 24% retaliatory tariffs imposed on U.S. ag goods on March 4th for 1 year, but a 13% tariff remains on U.S. soybeans. As a result, China reportedly bought soybeans from Brazil this week.
That was the report yesterday, is that they bought 10 cargoes for December delivery. The other 10 were for that February to July delivery timeframe. And this, it's not normal for Brazil to be selling soybeans to China in December.
President Trump has said a ruling against him in the case in the Supreme Court would be catastrophic for the economy. So how much could China factor into U.S. soybean carryout and export numbers? Well, we could get a better idea finally later this month, as USDA has announced, despite the government shutdown, it will release some reports in November. You can see the reports and dates on your screen here. It includes a supply and demand report later this month, along with a crop production report on November 14th. And there was more good news on the demand side this week when it comes to U.S. soybeans. The Ag Secretary saying on X that countries are lining up to buy them. Brooke Rollins posting that Bangladesh's top 3 soy crush companies have agreed to buy $1 billion worth of U.S. soybeans over the next year, adding that it's 3 times more U.S. soybeans than the country purchased last year. You'll remember last week we told you that U.S. wheat would soon be on the way to Bangladesh. The country approving a plan to buy 220,000 metric tons of U.S. wheat. The deal aimed at easing trade tensions between the two countries. U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins in Mexico earlier this week to check on progress fighting New World screwworm in an effort to keep it out of the U.S. Rollins saying the U.S. is not ready to reopen its border to Mexican cattle yet. However, she said she is pleased with Mexico's effort to contain the pest. The Ag Secretary telling Reuters that while she's not comfortable opening the ports yet, she said that every day that goes by, we get a little bit closer. That's it for the news. Well, farmers say the cost of growing crops has become unsustainable, and they're blaming more than global markets. Why some say the fertilizer industry itself has become too powerful next.
U.S. Farm Report is brought to you by Pioneer, the one that started it all and the one to count on when every bushel counts. Plant the 100th season at pioneer.com/100.